start, if you could give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new. This is the way.
Hey, what's up, everyone? We're keen to talk some Star Wars. Just watched Acolyte. Episode 6, Teach Corrupt. I actually had to write it down, which is good. Yeah, this is a good episode. Really, really good. Like a very dialogue heavy. And yeah, I thought I'd bring in someone to help talk about it this week. And because, yeah, one Jesse wasn't enough, we brought in another one. So let's bring on Clone Commander Jesse. Here he is.
Hello. They did talk about Power of Two in this episode, so maybe they were talking about Jesse Squared. I don't know.
Hey, didn't even cross my mind. I wrote down Power of Two, but I didn't even think. Oh, how's things, man? I always
good, man. Thanks for having me on.
That's all right. So yeah, just to start off, I thought we'd just sort of get your thoughts overall, like on the season so far, Episode
1 and 2. Episode 1 and 2. Start off. That was a solid building block for me because when the series first got announced back in 2020, end of 2020, wasn't it? When Kenobi and all that got announced.
Yeah, I think so.
This is the one that really caught my eye. Besides the obvious ones like Kenobi and more Mando, all that. And yeah, episode 1 and 2, solid building block. I thought. Got me hooked. Episode 3 was a bit of that was the really controversial one for a lot of people. Not to do with the Kiadi thing or anything like that. For mine, but that was sort of a bit of a step back for me. Didn't quite hit the nail for me personally. Episode 4, you could sort of see where they were going with it, and it hit that because apparently 4 and 5 they filmed as one big episode, and that's cut it.
Oh, well, okay. So they split that up. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah,
kind of makes sense.
And episode last week, best episode of the lot, obviously, as I'm sure most people would agree. And then with episode 6, I sort of expected it because after a lot of episodes, where you have an action-heavy sequence like you did in episode 5, episode 6 will sort of be a bit of a step back. Everyone's gathering themselves, but there were a couple things in this episode that definitely stuck out to me. Like you said, it was a dialogue-heavy episode. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it ties in at the end once we have episodes 7 and 8, and then we're looking back at it.
Yeah,
interesting to see how it all ties in. But yeah, there's a couple things that I suppose we can start theorizing on in that already.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I love doing it week to week. Is like you've got that time to sort of unpack and discuss, and I think you talk about episode 3 sort of being the sort of the most, in a sense, it's probably the most jarring of the episodes because it takes a step out of the through narrative that we're getting at the current sort of time, and it took a bit of a break, jump back. I think once we get the full story, and it sounds like we're getting very, very close to it, particularly with this, we're going to get that full what happened there, like what actually happened and what the purpose for it was. I think that episode's gonna be a lot more impactful on a repeat viewing. Once you've got that sort of different angle of it, which I think they're going to do. I hope it's not like a full episode. I hope it's it's just an explanation of how things happened, and we might be able to look at it in a completely different light later. But as I said to you before, I took a heap of notes. So kicks off with I sort of took this episode like we've had 2 pretty full-on episodes of sort of action-packed lightsaber combat, and this one was sort of a bit of a deep breath. We sort of going straight onto Chimere's lair on the unknown planet.
Yeah.
Did you think Arc 2 straight away?
Arc 2, as soon as I saw it in the trailer, that like it has Arc 2 vibes, doesn't it? But did you see that? Did you see that planet that's been going around that people have been sharing from Legends?
No.
Okay, so someone has found it today.
I haven't spent much time on the internet today, so I'm not really getting.
This is the one. Yeah, this is the one thing Twitter's actually good for sometimes. So it's cool. It's from Legends. It's in. I haven't actually read the Plagueis book myself. Sue me. But there's a planet that's in the Plagueis book and in the 2003 Clone Wars series. Apparently, it's called
Okay,
Bull Demnic, and
I
I'll just
remember it.
read
Yes.
the quick first paragraph of it. So it's an ocean planet adorned with rocky tropical islands in the Oral sector,
Okay.
located within the Outer Rim territories. Its native species is quite hostile, and together with its extremely harsh climate, discouraged most people from ever visiting the planet despite the beauty of its giant rock cliffs, pristine beaches, and vast oceans. So it sounded a bit like it, but then you get to the last sentence. It was mostly of interest to cartographers, xenobiologists, and fisher folk until knowledge of the planet's rich deposits of cortosis ore fell into the hands of Sith Lords Tenebrous and Plagueis.
Ah, okay.
So yeah,
It's been a long
it's
time between reads for Darth Plagueis for me, so
yeah,
that's a nice little refresher. I like it. Um, the thing that sort of tipped me towards Arc 2 was that
yep,
they used the sounds of the porgs, like the first sort of wide shot you see of the island. There's like
yep,
I don't know, it's kind of got this like seagull, this like
yeah,
exactly the same
yep,
sounds they used for the porgs. Whether it was maybe it was shot similar place, but I don't know, the cinematography of like the wide shots of the island, it felt very, very Arc 2-ish. There's a lot of wide shots in The Last Jedi that are
yep,
very there's almost a peacefulness to it, with the
mhm,
music and just
yep,
being able to hear the ocean crashing upon the rocks. Um, the brochure obviously didn't say anything about naked Sith Lords, but
yeah.
we we got our first nude Sith. If he was a thirst
Yeah,
trap last week, if he wasn't a thirst trap last week with those guns, he had everything out tonight.
I know. Yeah, I did see a couple people on Twitter losing their minds over that.
Yeah, I was kind of like, they showed his leg. Like, obviously, they showed him taking the shirt off, and
Yeah,
then implied he was taking the trousers off. I'm like, okay, Star Wars really going to do this? We're going to get our first
yeah,
Star Wars bottom.
yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of glad
They
they
got
left
very
a
close,
little bit
didn't
to
they?
the imagination there. Like, I can't wait for see what the internet's going to do with these images this
Oh,
week.
yeah, yeah. You already
Oh,
know. Yeah,
he's
yeah.
a fit dude. Like, it's a fit dude. You may as well show it off.
He's got the
But
sleeper build. He's got the sleeper
yeah,
build. Would not have picked it because I'm not familiar with any of his other works before this. But yeah, no, full sleeper build. Would not have picked that.
I'm glad Brian's joining us. Yeah, Metal Jedi.
No.
They said Leslie Headland said we will see two Sith, and there is a connection to Kylo Ren from the music cue from the last episode. Thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let you fire away with some thoughts.
Yeah. Look,
Uh,
I did a video on it last week as well. I definitely just like he's referencing. He did mention there is a specific. Leslie did say there is a specific purpose for Kylo Ren's theme, and it was in this one at like towards the end of the credits. Like nothing. I don't think it was actually in the episode itself, but it was in there again towards the end of the credits. And yeah, if we're leaning towards it, doesn't appear he's Sith. So he may be like a failed Sith apprentice or something, and that
yeah.
possibly the Knights of Ren start. Because I think the earliest canon appearance we've got of them is between Empire and Return of the Jedi. They're in a few of the comics there, the Knights of Ren.
Yes. Yeah.
But who knows? They never referenced them being the first or anything like that. And there was a little detail I picked up on in it would have been episode 4 when he was still just Chimera, and he's talking to May on was it Kofar, where
Yes.
Konaka is, and whether he might just be lying to keep his cover at that point in time, but he does say that the master likes to collect people. So I just picked up on that. I was like, wait, maybe if that is true, and it's not just him hiding his cover at that point. Obviously, that might be the start of his fellow knights, and he is Ren.
Okay.
We haven't
Yeah.
seen any of these other people though, so it very well could have just been a lie. But I definitely think, and the helmet and everything, it does look very Ren.
Yeah, it does.
So
Yeah, big time. That was like one of the first sort of things. Like when that helmet got revealed in photos, it's like, I can. If you look at all the other Knights of Ren, there's about 4 other helmets out of the 7 that kind of go. Yeah, I can kind of see where the sort of the derivative, nature of that design. Like it's but I know that they spoke about the whole cortosis thing throughout the week. That was really cool to actually see that spoken about in this episode.
Yeah,
Like,
just to get that
really cool.
hammered in, and that was cool getting the
And just
reference.
seemed like, I don't know, he was like welding up the helmet, but he was like shielding his eyes from like the sparks. And I'm like, you should have just got the monkey dude that fixed Kylo Ren's helmet in.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not born yet, but
maybe take it to Babu Frick or his great grandfather, whoever's around at that point.
Yeah, exactly. The sort of one reveal we got about Chimera in this episode. I'm still calling him Chimera because we don't have like a proper Sith name for him. The Stranger. I don't like calling him the Stranger.
Yeah, it's easier than the Stranger.
Yeah. Is that he was a Jedi, and he iterates that by saying it was a really long time ago. So he's not that old. Like this dude's in his 30s. Like,
yeah, that's what I mean. So, him and because obviously Osha then says, "I don't remember you," and he's like, "It's a really long time ago." And I was like, "Well, I mean, he might be a little bit older, but not ridiculously older. Than maybe 10 years tops. Like there wouldn't be much there at all."
No, no.
And that sort of just takes me back to last week's episode when Sol said there was something familiar about Chimera when he was still behind the helmet. And I know they met each other, or didn't meet each other, but were around each other quickly in the Apothecary in episode 2, I think.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't have been enough, surely, because he wasn't, when the helmet came off, he wasn't like, it's you, like Yord was or something. So there's that element there where I do wonder if that Mother Coral is pulling the strings, or somehow in his head, or there's something there. I just think there might be a link there somewhere. And because I think next week's episode is done by the same director that did the throwback episode for episode 3. So we might be getting the throwback again. Because there's still the Kilnaka clip from the trailer where it looks like he's jumping at Torben. We haven't seen yet.
Yes, yeah. Some other shit does go down there on Brendog.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting dynamic between the two sort of main sort of plot threads going on in this episode, with Chimera and Osha on the island, and Sol and May, sort of trying to get away from the planet and trying to fix stuff. And you've got what's his name, Basil, running around trying to fix stuff and help out. He's so good.
Basil,
but it's like it was I found the dynamic really interesting. Is you've got the sort of the Sith side, you've got the dark side with Chimera, and he's showing himself living a real sort of peaceful existence on this island, and he's being he's not being unkind to Osha, but he's offering her knowledge, and he's offering her peace. He offers her the chance to say, the ship's just over there. If you want to go for it. You swim there, but you can leave whenever you want. He offers her food, and it's very sort of he's just letting it happen. Whereas the dynamic between Sol and May at this point is he's trying to work out who she is. I think he knew from the get-go that wasn't Osha. I think as soon as she was on board,
I'd like to think so, at least, because I know she cut her hair and that, but she's still got the witch mark up there. I'd like to think he knew.
And like Chimera, in comparison with Sol, like Sol's very much, his emotions are very much driving him in this episode. He gets frustrated and he punches the thing, and he's trying to get signals out and trying to get away. It was an interesting dynamic between a peaceful Jedi not being very peaceful, and then a Sith, very much living this sort of cool, calm, collected. He's just massacre, and he's just like, I'm just going to go chill. I'm going to get naked and have a swim.
It was, And that last bit with Sol, when he had May tied up, that was very like dark. Like that was he looked very sinister and very dark. So, because I know for a few weeks now, people like probably since that throwback episode, people have been saying there is something there to Soul that might not necessarily him being on the dark side or anything, but there is just that there's a bit of darkness there. Like you
Mm,
can't quite trust him. You want to, but you can't quite.
yeah,
Um,
it's the smile, man. Like when Soul smiles, it's just it brings warm feelings to my heart.
yeah. You can tell as soon as I saw episode 1 and 2, you can tell, and Lee Jung Jae did say it as well. You can tell he tried to model off a Qui-Gon. There is a lot of Qui-Gon about him. You even go to
Yeah.
like his lightsaber stance and the way Osha held it when she took Chimera's saber. It was all very Qui-Gon.
Mm.
Very Qui-Gon.
Yeah, there's so much cool stuff. Like the whole, this episode, it was called Teach and Teach Corrupt. It was like a lot of lessons being learnt on both sides, but we know now that Chimera's intention is to corrupt Osha. He says, I made a mistake with May. I thought she wanted what I wanted. And Osha sort of says, well, what do you want? He said, the power of 2.
Mm.
And when I thought about that on my second viewing, my immediate thought is he's trying to get this power from these 2 girls. I think he wants them together.
Mm-hmm.
I think he needs them together. I think there is the dyad power. I think that's contained within Osha and May, I think. And this is all linking towards the Sith and Palpatine and Sidious. Because when Sidious or Palpatine, he's able to use that power from Rey and Ben Solo at the end of Rise of Skywalker. He says, a dyad in the Force, a power unseen for generations.
Yeah.
And there's been a few generations since Osha and May.
Yeah, because trying to think of the time difference between that and Rise of Skywalker is they're about around 120, 130 years before before A New Hope.
Yeah.
It'd be another 30. There's about another 165, 170 years, maybe. It's a long time.
Yeah. So arguably, generations, you could say.
Yeah.
And he's, if he's, he's done Sidious, Plagueis, Tenebris, etc. That's 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So for him to say not a power unseen for generations, maybe he's only heard the stories himself, but this is kind of part of that power that they're trying to seek. This is a kind of dark side power that can endure and give the Sith longevity in life. It's ultimately I don't know. Don't know whether I thought way too much about that.
No, I think because as soon as I heard it, whenever you hear like power of 2 or say like that, my head immediately goes, rule of 2. But then, you go back to the Rise of Skywalker and Palpatine calls it like when he first realizes like he's regrowing, his limbs are coming, but like his fingers aren't as crippled and all that. His first words are power of 2. And I think that'd be maybe one of the, if maybe possibly the only mention of power of 2 with that. So there could definitely be a link there because there is no, because when we did hear there was a dyad in the Force, people think maybe they're gonna say Obi-Wan and Anakin had it or something like that, but it's never been confirmed, so it very well could be, and that could be part of how they were conceived by these witches.
Because they did say in that 3rd episode, they said, she said, I carried them, and then Mother Anastasia, she said, well, I created them. And said, we can't let the Jedi find out why. So I'm sort of thinking there is a bigger power here. Tenebris, Plagueis, who knows? That's sort of this whole power of 2, this needing the power of 2. That just makes me think of Tenebris and sort of manipulations and stuff that he was doing in the Darth Plagueis book, and Darth Plagueis was screwing aroround with Darth Venomous, and it was like he was killing him and bringing him back to life, and killing him and bringing him back to life. I'm like, I know Darth Plagueis novel isn't canon. Like but until spoken otherwise, it's canon in my brain.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's still a lot of stuff they can pull from that and reintroduce to canon if they want as
Big
well.
time. And some of that is just like, to this day, that's still one of the best Star Wars novels that's been done.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to read it. You've got to read it.
Oh, I know. That's what I hear from a lot of people too. Is like that is one of the best. And then I get stuck in the middle of like 2 novels and then in the middle of comics. So there's so much literature out there.
Yeah. Do you keep up with the comics and stuff?
Yeah, I try mainly the Darth Vader ones, and then I'm catching up with the Star Wars ones at the moment as well because I know they're finishing off their last couple of issues over the next couple of months.
Yeah,
nice but yeah, so those Darth Vader ones are some of my absolute favorites, dude. They are unreal.
Yeah. I sort of stopped with the comics when they did that sort of shift to go post Empire, like with the main runs. And I got a few of them. And it just got too much. I was just like, nah, it's too hard.
Yeah, the Vader ones they're doing at the moment are between Empire and Return of the Jedi. There's a couple cool bits, but some of it's a bit odd as well. But the first two, post Revenge and then post A New Hope, were some of my absolute favorites. That arc with Vader, like building Vader's castle with Moment and going through that gateway and seeing all that stuff. Yeah, unreal. Do you keep up to date at all with that content creator Ashton Sharrett? He does a lot of the music stuff.
No,
he's unreal. I'm not sure if you've seen this one in particular or not. He did one, I reckon it was when the trailer for Acolyte came out, because there was a theme played in there that you would not have picked up on unless you're a musician like him. He picked up Balin Skull's theme. Did you see that?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Because then he's reposted it because obviously there's stuff coming out about Abeloth being in the Ahsoka series and all of that now. You've got the smile on Kamir's mask like Abeloth. Yeah. And then obviously Abeloth's nickname, or not nickname, but other titles, the Mother. Then you've got Mother Coral there. So there's a couple like little things here that could be setting up maybe a little base for what we might get later with Ahsoka and that. Because you see him do it all the time. They'll chuck in like a little bit of it here or there, and then you'll see why later on down the track it will all come to fruition.
Yeah,
I just wonder.
The story, like Filoni sitting there at the head of the story group meetings. You got Favreau, you've got Leslie Headland, you've got all these people, and they're just dishing some cool stuff up. Like they just got the salt and they just little sprinkle there. Yeah. And I love the idea of like jumping back 100 years to the Acolyte and then being able to use that to sort of link up to something in Ahsoka, like linking to what's going on in Peridea, like with what Balin Skull's doing. Because obviously the big sort of talking point of the week, aside from the Acolyte, was that they're looking to recast Balin Skull, which I'm grateful for. Like,
I think it's the right choice.
Yeah, like had he been in the role for a long period of time, like I would say, you can't really recast. But I don't know. I'm all for it. I'd rather continue the character's story rather than just go, oh well, the actor's death. We're going to kill off the character. I know. I think at some point, the characters have got to become bigger than the actors that portray them. And I said that with I said that with Carrie Fisher, with Rise of Skywalker when they were doing episode 9. I was kind of like, okay, you know what? I'd rather not diminish her intended story, and recast. But obviously, they wanted to stick with the legacy of Carrie Fisher, and I completely understand. She'd had that role for 40 years, so I sort of totally understood from that perspective. But with Ray Stevenson only sort of doing one sort of season of the character, it's kind of like, you can still honor him. He'll always be Balin Skull in that first season, but
absolutely,
so I'm excited to see where that goes. Like,
obviously he set the foundations for that character and he knocked it out of the park. Like you couldn't have asked for a better actor to play Balin Skull. But just where they left his story and that there's absolutely no way you can get rid of that character, because just by looking at it, there is a huge plot point coming up with him there.
Yeah.
you need him. You need a Balin skull. Yeah, but there's a couple potential, obviously, actors that get thrown out there, and I'm sure they'll do a good job.
Yeah. I was looking for Palpatine 1975 says, I'm wondering where the heck my master Plagueis. Shouldn't he exist around this time for the immune species? They're supposed to have a long life, so it should make sense he is around. I think he's there. He's around. I think he's working his magic. He's doing he's just hanging out. He's not in the forefront. Which makes me think like Kymir's sort of come out and risked. He's, if he is indeed the apprentice of the hour, like if he's the apprentice that's looking for an acolyte to overthrow the master, like surely leaving Sol as a witness, risks the Jedi finding out of the Sith's re-emergence too early. So we're not going to see that. So that's off the table.
Yeah. It was Sol's obviously got his own little agenda that he's going after at the moment. Because he could have gone he could have waited literally 2 seconds for Vanestra and the other Jedi. But yeah, he's obviously going to go off on this hunt, try to find Osha with May.
Yeah.
I mean, writing's kind of on the wall. What's going to happen there if the secret of the Sith doesn't get out?
Yeah, we saw from Vanestra's sort of point of view when she was on the planet, and what was the name of the young Jedi dude? Mog.
Mog.
He was a bit of a goofy dude.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was just because he's British and he was just, I don't know.
Yeah.
British people used to be bad guys in Star Wars. But
there was a simpleness there, wasn't there?
Yeah, he was kind of like, oh, did Sol do this? And she's like, that's a big accusation. I'm like,
that's yep.
Yeah, but it could be enough for the Jedi to go, well, there's no way this could be anyone else but him. He's the only survivor. He killed everyone with lightsabers. He's trying to cover up something that happened. Like Vanestra obviously is aware of it.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see how he's going to get painted into the bad guy corner here.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You could see that happening too, yeah, couldn't you?
I'm just looking at my notes to sort of see what I've got, what else I've written. The little birds with elephant trunks. I kind of want one as a pet.
The little thing that Osha saw.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw it, because I only saw it for like a split second when I first watched it, I was like, "That looks like a little Max Rebo."
There's little birds with these little elephant trunks. It looks like. Yeah. My immediate thought wasn't elephant trunk. Like.
Yeah.
Because my mind's in the gutter most of the time, so
need a species name for him ASAP. We don't have one, do we?
Yeah. I haven't really written anything else.
Did you do you have any theories about the scar on Kamir's back?
Yeah, well, he pretty much said it was being pushed away. Whether it was this guy's obviously angry at the Jedi, whether it's because he was once one, and that was the other thing we sort of discovered about Osha too, is that she was a Jedi, she was on her way, but she failed at some point, whether it was trials or whatever it is. And
yeah, because she it always sort of been implied that it was her choice. She just walked away.
Yeah. But it's sort of coming from his point of view. It's kind of like, maybe, I don't know. It's like having a job and you sort of, you work with someone who's, not the brightest light in the, not the sharpest tool in the toolbox. And instead of like sacking them, they kind of just give them less hours at work, and they just like,
just like gently,
and make them go, oh, I'm not really wanted here, I'll leave. So it's kind of like, the Jedi can't just go, oh, you failed your trials,
Yeah.
they can't just kick you out the door because you've got to,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know whether
Just put the writing on the wall. There's no future. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So it's kind of like, you know, did they just sort of, you know, someone a Jedi fails the trials and they just kind of just push them down the backside, like, and just let them decide on their own, and just kind of go, kind of force that decision upon them. I don't know.
So I wonder with Chimea's mask, because it sorry, not his mask, is the scar on his back. It wasn't like a clean cut or something or anything. It was sort of a bit jagged almost.
Yeah.
And she did ask like where you got it from. He's like, you know, where do you think? And she asked if it was the Jedi Master, and he sort of just looked at her and then just changed subject. I think that was when he mentioned cortosis.
Yeah.
I wonder if, because the only other thing I could think of, I wonder if Venestra was the master at one point and that was a lightsaber whip. You would think it might cause a deeper scar, but just the way it was scarred, it looked like a whip.
Yeah, the way it sort of like if it had hit him, it would have gone like crack, like kind of weird.
Because you can turn the power up and like the power up and down on lightsabers. So, because often when I'm sure you already know this, but yeah, often when like Jedi would duel each other at like training, they'd turn it down. So if an accident happened, cut someone's arm off or something. So who knows? Maybe she did that with her saber and whipped him. Who knows? But because I think when she pulled out the lightsaber whip, it was around the time of that scene as well, so it was kind of close by each other.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, she's whipped him, and she hasn't gone full force. Never go full force. Unless these Sith are not canon in Disney's eyes, and that kind of changes everything about when Palpatine coughed mess at Anakin at the opera.
I love these accounts that like take upon the persona, like they call themselves Palpatine or Vader or a clone trooper, and they just take upon the persona of the said character.
This is my good friend. This is a good friend of mine from Singapore. He's been a friend of mine for almost as long as I've been on YouTube, which is like
that's awesome.
13, 14 years at this point.
Wow. Yeah, right.
It's always gone by the moniker of Palpatine.
Palpatine.
But the thing that sort of people are sort of getting a little bit up in arms because like, the Sith are showing up, and you know the discussion is, well, haven't the Sith been extinct for a millennium? It's like, according to the Jedi, they have.
Yeah.
They've just been hanging out. They've just been waiting, biding their time, trying to fuel corruption. And that was one thing I wanted to bring up too, is it was kind of swept under the back burner of this episode. It was kind of if you're not paying attention, you miss it. I sort of got an idea, and then in the second viewing, I was kind of like, okay, there's something else going on here, because when Venestra is having that meeting, she's talking on a hologram with a senator.
Yes.
She's saying there's a senator from a certain planet. I didn't pick up all the details. So a third watch is in order. And it's sort of something about doing a check, like almost an audit on the Jedi Order. Like,
I suppose what they're showing us,
political territory with the Jedi.
Exactly. Yeah, because I think what they're trying to show there is, the Senate is like the Jedi are becoming more affiliated with the Senate.
Yeah.
Because have you read the what is it called? Have you read the Living Force novel yet? It came out in April, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm about a third of the way through.
Yeah, so you're pretty similar to me. So yeah, you'd see there where that Yoda and what's the name? Master Galaya is having that meeting with Palpatine and the Chancellor.
Yes. Yeah, I think
you catch that. Yeah, did you catch that little reference there where he's like, I wonder what the walls would look like if they were red? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I did. I was like,
but yeah, I mean, that's obviously more deeper into it because that's only a year before the Phantom Menace, and this is still 100 years before it.
It is a year, is it? Yeah, I've been talking about it to a few people.
Yeah,
sort of saying I'm not sure exactly. It's not long before the Phantom Menace, but yeah, if it's about a year.
Yeah, everything I've seen Avatar, it's meant to be 1 year before the Phantom Menace. But yeah, obviously them getting. I wonder how that starts though. Them becoming more, uh, having to operate within the Senate
Mhm.
because of that's always something I thought. Palpatine sort of try to maneuver and wriggle his way in.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's starting way before because Palpatine's not even born at this point.
Mm.
So yeah, this is something that started a bit earlier. So I wonder if we'll see a bit more of that, or if we're just gonna continue
Yeah.
with
Well, that's another good part of the Darth Plagueis novel is it explains because Darth Plagueis' alter ego, Higo Damask, was like, the head of the banking clan. Basically, he wasn't the head of the
Yep,
banking clan. But he was a pretty big sort of shareholder, stockholder, or something in the
yep,
banking clan. So he had the funds at his control to basically fund the clone army and do all
yep,
this sort of stuff behind. And that's when, like, there's a couple episodes of the Clone Wars where Palpatine talks about deregulating the banks, and it's like, wow, this is pretty heavy for like a kid's cartoon.
yeah,
But
yeah,
then by deregulating the banks, it then means that there's money sort of tied up. I'm not sure. I don't totally understand like what that actually means. It's like I kind of get the gist of it, but it's
yeah, yeah,
it's like basically it gives control to the people kind of thing.
yeah,
And if they go, well, you're the government. If you want to do these things like create a clone army, then you go use that money.
yep,
Something
yep.
like that anyway. I'm not 100%
I've always wanted to. It'd take a while, but I've always wanted to do like a series on my channel, like almost like a criminal investigation type, where I just pinpoint like do a episode on each little pinpoint of where Palpatine made a little move. Because if you go back through it all, there were so
Mm,
many little things he did where
yeah.
when you watch it back for like Star Wars back for a 15th, 20th, 25th time, you still are noticing these little things he does that might not seem big at the time, but they all add up to obviously his grand plan. He was so meticulous and patient. It is
Mm,
unreal. There is no redeeming factor for him. He is genuine, just pure evil. But
yeah. I think
yeah,
even
yeah,
just the
yeah.
little says to like in Revenge of the Sith to Anakin
Mm,
or Attack of the Clones.
yep.
It's just like, I foresee you becoming the greatest of all Jedi, even more powerful
Yeah.
than my. Just little things to build up Anakin, in his head, like just to build him up and break him down at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
It's
like,
even like little things like I'm sure because he deliberately orchestrated because he knew how Anakin felt about Padme because obviously he confided in
hmm,
him. He deliberately orchestrated them to go away together in Attack of the
hmm,
Clones. But I don't know if it's ever been confirmed, but it's my headcanon at least, because he suggested Master Kenobi and Anakin at the start when they're having that meeting with Palpatine and the
yeah,
Jedi. It's my headcanon. He would have orchestrated an attack on some planet that he knew would have ended by a certain time, so those two would have been free. It's my headcanon. I know he would
yeah,
have been that meticulous about it. Um, yeah, because obviously, yeah, he wanted because then once he's got Anakin with Padme, that's the catalyst right there that he can use
yeah.
for his turn.
He's also the master of like dancing on the fly sort of thing. Like, if something
Mm,
doesn't, like in Phantom Menace, where like he is surprised that Padme goes, "Oh, I'm going to go back to Naboo."
yeah.
And he's like, well, now I've got to switch my plan up, and
Mm,
it's going to send Darth Maul. You got to wipe this shit out. You got to stop this from
yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Because he was like, no, if she's here in here, I can influence this and make this happen.
Yeah.
But her going back was a threat to that plan.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I think there's a couple of moments throughout even the Clone Wars where where it was almost like, this is his moment to sort of come out and show who he is.
Mm,
But and something else happens. He's like, no, okay, this isn't it. I've got to wait again. I've got to wait
yeah.
again. And it obviously gets to that point of Revenge of the Sith. I'm going to get to a couple of these comments.
What are the people saying?
And between the Acolyte and Ahsoka show, I'm in Force heaven. Love delving into the mysteries of the Force. Big time, man. Big time. I'm
Yeah.
yeah, loving that sort of stuff as well.
episode, I think it was three, yeah, episode 3 of Ahsoka, when Ahsoka was explaining the Force to Sabine. That was probably one of my favorites because that was like direct
Mhm.
from. Because you go back and watch George Lucas talking about the Force, that is that.
Yeah.
That is
Mm.
that.
G'day, Eddie. How are you, mate? It's good to hear from you. He says, do you reckon Osha had too much anger in her from her past and the Jedi could work that out of her during her training? And he says, sorry, I mean that because of her anger about May. The past Jedi instructor couldn't train it out of her and she felt forced to leave the order. Possibly, I sort of thought, this could be the moment where the Jedi go, we can't be recruiting kids that are like, 8, 9, 10 years old because it's like they've already had too much, they've already had too much life. They've been sort of taught how to, live with emotions. Which is why they start going for basically infants from this point. I sort of thought that in the first episode or two of the Acolyte, where I was like, okay, this is sort of setting up for that. And then when Anakin comes along, the argument that he is the chosen one and he could fulfill the prophecy, the Jedi are finally willing to bend that rule again after sort of going so diligently against it and going, well, we're going to let Qui-Gon trust in the living force, which is something the Jedi, as you're reading now with the living force, like the Jedi are so lost that it's painting an interesting picture of the Jedi.
I love it. Because you get that little bit in there from Master PL. He said I don't know if you're up to that part yet or not. It'd be around it. He compared himself to Qui-Gon. He saw himself the closest out of the order to Qui-Gon in terms of getting interest in the living force. Because he was saying like, yes, that we're beginning to lose our way. I found that very interesting. Even like at the start of the book, like the way Qui-Gon teaches Obi-Wan, they'll travel using public transport so Obi-Wan can just meet people. So they don't. Yeah. Qui-Gon would think apprentices could, tend to lose their way or lose their place in the galaxy because they think, I'm just this purpose, this is me. And you look at it, it's like, obviously, like, why it's called Duel of the Fates, but that would have been perfect for Anakin. Someone like Qui-Gon would have been perfect for Anakin.
Yeah, would have been able to, embrace the fact that Anakin had those attachments to his mother and try and find a way to find some balance in that itself. Like, it's like, you can have these feelings about your mother, but, this yada, yada, yada. I don't know how Qui-Gon would have done it, but Qui-Gon is still...
He would have been perfect.
Still just top tier Jedi, Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, 100%. 100%. That was why I think I latched onto Soul so quickly as well, because I just saw so much of Qui-Gon in him in those first couple episodes. And then, when Li Jung comes out and says, I watched a lot of it and that, try to model it on Qui-Gon, I was like, you can definitely...
that sort of empathy and...
Yes. Yep.
That warmth.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of where I'm up to in the Living Force, because I'm sort of... Oh, no, during the week, I guess, so exhausted. I was like, I'll read half a chapter. The chapters are short. It means I can just smash out one every night.
Yeah, I flicked through it right to the end. I think I've gotten past all the long chapters. So now, all the chapters are like sort of 6-8 pages. I think I'm all good.
But no, it's good. It's especially with the Acolyte coming out now, where it's sort of, it's starting to show the Jedi at the beginning of this sort of flawed period where they don't see themselves as flawed, but they're very much becoming dictated by politics. And, you've got some Jedi factions like we're seeing in the show sort of hiding this from the High Council. And, maybe the High Council are just, they're so high and mighty up in their tower that they fail to see all these smaller things that are happening in the galaxy. And then when you get to, well, what is essentially like 80 years later or 70 years later for the Phantom Menace, it's like, 70, 80 years later, I think, in the Phantom Menace, and they're shutting down all their outposts from the galaxy. And it's like, well, you really sort of like, whether that's Sith infiltrating, the Senate in order to pull the Jedi all back in so that the Sith can actually go, well, now that they're all housed in Coruscant, we know exactly how many we've got. We know all the numbers. There's no beacons of hope out throughout the galaxy. It's just really interesting painting the galaxy at that point.
Yeah, and I think that was what you're seeing in Living Force is a real key part of how Palpatine was able to turn public opinion against the Jedi. Because
Yeah.
and you can even see it in the Living Force, like people already complain, like, where are you guys? Like you're not here. And yeah, Qui-Gon's having to like, play peacemaker, which is obviously their role at this point still. But yeah, like even at this stage, yeah, people are losing the presence of the Jedi. They're not seeing them, and obviously the route this Living Force is focusing on, that trade route or whatever they call it. Yeah, they're almost like almost just not around at all there now, and so all these little gangs and that running rampant at the moment.
Yeah, there was something else I was just thinking of, but I've had a brain fart.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah, I was watching Phantom Menace again recently. And that's right, because I was watching the scene where they're doing the test on Anakin, because they did the same test on the twins in Acolyte.
Yes,
like, they got the little iPad, and then there's like showing pictures on the iPad. And then Qui-Gon comes in and he makes the case for Anakin being trained, and he's like, no, he's too old. And then Mace quickly jumps in and goes, the code forbids it. He's like, don't worry about what the Force is telling us. The book that we've got sitting over there in the corner, the instruction manual to how to be a Jedi, that's saying, no, you can't. He's too young. Like, they've completely lost faith in the Force. And yeah, it's just almost like it's a wonder why they're sort of able. It's not a wonder. It sort of shows how easily they're able to be sort of pulled down by Palpatine in the prequels. Which makes me hungry to go back even further than the Acolyte has and really show the Jedi in their spiritual prime, in the future, like if we're going to pick up after Episode 9 with Rey's film coming 15 years after Rise of Skywalker, like how does she do things differently? Like Luke was at very big risk of completely just duplicating what he'd learnt about the Jedi Order. And essentially that, undone itself again before it even got started. So I wonder how, Rey's going to continue on with the Jedi Order. And is it going to be able to go back to something similar, or is it just going to keep repeating itself?
Be interesting with that movie as well, like who the enemy will be, or if there even will be an enemy. I'm sure that there'll be an enemy at some stage. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting because there's obviously not a lot known about the movie at all. I think filming got delayed until next year because they're still waiting on a script and all that. But yeah, it'll be interesting how they go with it.
Yeah. Oh, I can take their time with it. I think that's fine. Just get it right, make it good.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Just make it it just needs to be there you go back to some basics, like in terms of storytelling. Like, it doesn't need to be too complex. Just keep it timeless, keep it not it doesn't need to be simple. Like, a lot of people were talking about Acolyte and going, oh, there's so many twists and turns, and Chimera being the Sith was so obvious after those first couple of episodes. I'm like, Star Wars has never been that sort of twisted and difficult to read. Like, it's more so from the character's perspective, the Jedi being completely blindsided by the dark side and going, oh crap, how did we not see that?
Yeah,
it's not for the viewer to go, oh, I knew that was happening. Like, we're even up until the episode last week. Me and the boss were sitting there watching it, and he was saying, like, oh, I reckon it could be the mother in the helmet. Like, even at the last moment, like, it was like, oh, it could be her. And I was like, okay, I kind of get it. Like,
I was pretty sold on Chimera, and the only thing that threw me off for a bit was when Sol said there's something familiar. I was like, he was around Chimera for like 2 seconds. Like, it can't be. I was like, that's what threw me back to the mother. But yeah. One of the main things that's taken me out of it a bit as well is the constant switching from May, like in that in episode sort of 4 and 5, her constant switching from I'll go back to the Jedi, no, I'm back with Chimera, no, all right, and then I'll just
Yeah,
push my sister and knock her out. That took me out of it a bit. I
yeah.
wish
It
they'd
was
I
kind of
wish they'd just sorta say, "All right, we're gonna do our episode times, we're gonna flesh everything out."
mm,
Um, and yeah, because I think, yeah, probably just the uneven, run times has sorta taken me out of it a little bit at points. Um, but yeah, if they gave him, like, an hour each episode just to flesh everything out, gave themselves some time, I think, that would improve
mm,
it a lot as well.
yeah. I'd like to see like a longer format series. I know they go to a point and they write the story and then they go, all right, how are we going to split this into 6 or 8 episodes? It's kind of like,
Yeah.
whereas something like House of Dragon, I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones and all that as well, but they've got source material where they can kind of go, well, this is a season, this is a season. We can kind of do this block in an hour, you do this block in an hour, they do this
Right.
block in an hour. Whereas Star Wars doesn't have that sort of existing source material with new shows like this. If they were going to do an adaptation of a book, they could go, okay, we're going to split this section, these 3 chapters into an hour, hour, and then go, let's really flesh them out.
Yeah.
And stop paying all the producers exorbitant amounts of money, because the credits start rolling on the Acolyte. I'm like, there is like 5 minutes of producers, co-producers, executive producers. I'm just like, how many cooks do you need in this kitchen?
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, I know that
Yeah.
there's all different sort of parts to production and stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels too much. I don't know whether it's just me not understanding the industry, like in terms of, but it's like executive produced by Kathleen Kennedy and so and so, and then it's executive produced by so and so. And I'm like, yeah, do you need like 40 people in a room to like organize production? Like, I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's just
No, you're probably not. Yeah, you're probably not too far off with it. Like you said, like I'm not super familiar with like a production process on something like that either. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say you're too far off with that take. Because yeah, with like they do have a lot of writers and producers, like with obviously like Mandalorian, you'll have up to 5, 6 on a season or something. But it's sort of been the same consistent 5 to 6 over the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So they sort of all know what each other is doing, I'd say by this point.
Yeah.
And you've always got the consistent 2 with Filoni and Favreau there alongside him.
Yeah.
So that sort of has gone together a bit more seamlessly for mine.
Yeah. I might be getting like grumpy Facebook comments like in my head a little bit. Just everyone's talking about, the season had, 8 episodes, $180 million budget. I put a lot of that down to like on set, on what do they call it? Like travel for shooting. They're not in the location shooting. Like obviously this last episode, they would have had to go somewhere like, I'm guessing it was Ireland. I don't know, because it looked like
possibly.
It looked like
So now, just with you mentioning that, something's come to my head. Did Leslie say she didn't use the volume a lot for this?
Yeah, because I think that was kind of the aim going into this. They wanted it to feel as real as possible, and do as many sort of practical sets. And obviously, you're building like the big jungle from last week. You're going to have to use that as much as possible to get bang for buck. But at the same time, if you're traveling and doing panoramic cinema shots like in this episode, that's going to cost a little bit more than an $80,000 season of The Mandalorian, where it's like so much of that was shot on volume on sound stages where you put all the actors into a shed and just go, all right, we're shooting everything here. So that's sort of where that expense gets spread out. And I think people need to just spend that little bit extra time just thinking about it, just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just reading here. She did not use the volume at all, apparently.
So how do you think ships and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. How do you think? Also, we've got 2 episodes left to go. I always had it in my head. I swear she said it in an interview a while ago. Maybe she didn't. I always had it in my head that this was at least going to be 2 seasons, but she did say season 1 does end sort of definitively. Like there's an option there for season 2, but if it doesn't happen for whatever reason, season 1 does have an ending. It doesn't leave you on a cliffhanger. How do you think season 1 will end?
I don't know. I think
Yeah.
yeah, like I kind of have like I've gone into this sort of show like trying not to predict what's going to happen. Just I
Yep.
find the fun of it going week to week.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
enjoying that
yep.
far more than I was expecting, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Yep.
And just discussing it, having lots of good chats at work, and even time with yourself. Like,
Yeah, yep.
yeah, I'm kind of going with that. Just
Yeah,
sort
yep.
of letting it play out week to week and sort of seeing where
Yep.
it goes. But I don't know. I feel like there is a bigger picture at play here. I'm not sure they've touched on it enough after 6 episodes to go, oh, bang, here's a bigger picture. I think it's really going to be sort of focused on the Jedi, what actually happened on Brendok with the kids. And then, whether we get a little tease at some closure at the end, whether we get to see the Jedi High Council, I kind of want to see that. Like, who doesn't want to see like the Jedi High Council, whether Yoda, because I think like Yoda, Yaropoof, Oppo Rancisis, I think they're the 3 Jedi that are on them, that would be on the council at this time.
I think so. Yeah.
Like based on what I've read in the High Republic, there might be 1 or 2 more. Kiadi-Mundi's obviously not on the High Council yet. I mean, technically, apparently he's not even born yet, so that's. I still in disbelief how many people got their knickers in a twist about his birthday.
Yeah, no, that didn't bother me too much. Obviously, like they've changed Qui-Gon's birthday.
Yeah,
sort of stuff.
You're not a big fan of Kiadi-Mundi. You're not a big fan.
No,
of
I just don't like
Kiadi-Mundi.
him in general. I just don't like the character.
Yeah,
I just don't like the character.
I always thought he was a bit of a d-bag, big d-bag Jedi. Like, maybe second only to Mace Windu. Like Mace Windu is just like head d-bag of the Jedi Order.
Yeah, no,
it's bad. Don't get me wrong. I love Mace Windu, but like, if he wasn't such a pompous twat, like Anakin might have been okay.
Yeah, well, you see a bit of it in Tales of the Jedi as well, don't you? With him and Dooku.
Yeah,
but yeah, no. Favorite Kiadi scene's definitely Order 66. I hate that character. Yeah, well, that was probably the other thing I've really wanted out of this series, because that was what seemed to be getting talked about a bit by Leslie, in that where we were going to dive into the Sith a bit, and just for I haven't felt like we've gotten that as much as I thought we would, at least. Like we obviously addressed in this episode a bit more of like Chimeras motivations and that sort of thing. But I really wanted to get stuck into the Sith side of stuff, like get stuck into their lore. And like, who knows, we might, there's 2 episodes left. Might still get a bit of it. But if we are really diving into the Sith at some stage, I would not be surprised if Chimera's just like this little bug in a big picture, and he just gets absolutely squashed at the end of episode 8 by a Tenebrous or a Plagueis or something like that. Just something that finalizes that season right. Probably majority of them are going to be dead, besides Main Osha or something. I don't know what's going to happen. And then that gives season 1 that's a little cap, and then if you wanted season 2, well, you've got Plagueis and Tenebrous now, so do what you want.
As much as I want to see, I feel like the end, it needs to finish with a scene on like Plagueis or Tenebrous or something like that. Like just to say, here you go, guys. You can imagine what happens next. But at the same time, I don't want to be. He's like, I was rewatching. I'm a big Lord of the Rings Hobbit fan, but there's one part of the last Hobbit movie that I don't like, and it's where Legolas's father Thranduil goes, "You go and seek out a man. Is that he goes by Strider, your real name. You'll have to discover for yourself." And it's just like beating you over the head. Like it was so. Like I don't want to scene with Darth Plagueis going, "There has been word of a young man on Naboo who is destined to become a senator. I need to go and track him down. He murdered his parents." I don't want anything so smash over your head like that. Like just a little tease, like just some more crumbs. That way something else can be picked up at some point. But yeah. How many more run-ins can Jedi have with Sith between here and Phantom Menace? Without
Exactly.
losing?
That's exactly. Like I know there's the arrogance to them and that sort of thing. I think that was the other thing that got people so upset with the Kiadi appearance was because he's the one in particular that says they've been extinct for a millennia, and
Mm,
there has to be a reason that they chose him. Like there has to be a reason they chose him to be the one to say that. And I think if we don't get any more of a dive into it from the surface, just pointing more towards their arrogance and that sort of thing.
yeah. Well, it was him that sort of suggested in the Acolyte that going, it could be a splinter group of Jedi, like that, like the Sith being a potential threat here is just absolutely of zero consequence to the Jedi.
Not even an idea, yeah.
Yeah, like it didn't even cross their mind. Like there's got to be another explanation for this. Like, and that's in part of their failure as well. Like if they'd have gone, could it be a so slight chance as a Sith? If so, we've got to track this shit down and close it off for good.
Yeah, and obviously last week Sol heard the word Sith, not necessarily saying he is a Sith, but Jedi like you might call me a Sith.
Yeah.
So that we have to find out why that doesn't get back to the Jedi because obviously he hasn't told. He could have just said something to Venestra. He could have waited 2 seconds and seen her, but he's got his own little agenda at the moment. So we need to dive into more of why Sol is going off on his own little thing now. When there's this big threat, like he's heard the word Sith, they wouldn't have heard that in a long time.
Yeah.
Why is he finding his own agenda with May and Osha so much more important? He can't even quickly mention it. And just that little ending with him. There was a sinister vibe to it. It was a big sinister vibe to it. So with the throwback episode, I'm assuming we'll get next week. Who knows?
It sort of makes you questions. It definitely made me question Sol's motives at the end. It's like, is he after this power too for some reason? Like, is he after? What's he about to tell May that he's been hanging on to for 16 years? Like, it's obviously pretty big that they wouldn't just cut to the credits on that moment, but. Just a couple more comments here. It says Plagueis is not aware of this guy, at least not yet, and the Acolyte doesn't show any indication of Sith. I say maybe like Asajj Kylo didn't have it until you're pure Sith. Yeah. Well, Asajj Ventress was very much Ventress was very much an Acolyte in some respects too. Trained in the dark side, previously a Jedi. Dooku never really expressed any ambition to sort of take over destroy the Emperor and take over as his side. He always thought he was part of the master plan. Like he thought he'd be standing Palpatine's side, into the Empire.
Yeah, I'm assuming you've read the Revenge of the Sith novel. Yeah, well, it covers that because he's saying, I think, one chapter ends with his head pretty all cut off, and then the next chapter just covers what he's thinking, and he's saying how, Palpatine had, sold him this dream of Dooku was going to be able to lead this army of fallen Jedi into the Empire and things like that. So Dooku was sold on that dream. So I don't think, he's spot on with that. He wouldn't have had any ambitions to take over. I mean, he tried to kill Ventress the first time his master told him to. So
that's true.
Yeah, I don't think there was ever. He was a good follower. He was a very good follower to his demise. But yeah.
So we give myself a copy. Do it now.
Do it.
I don't know if I have any more thoughts. You got any predictions? Anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, no, I think like going off directors and probably the only trailer footage we have. This is probably the longest we've gotten into a season of something without having all the trailer footage seen so far. Because we've still got that Kelnark scene. So I'm assuming next week we'll probably get another throwback scene just to round out what really happened on Brendok. Whether it'll be a whole flashback episode, or it might cut between a bit, like an Arrow episode or something like that. But how's that for a reference? I think episode 7, might end up with who knows? It could be like, Soul telling May what happened, and then we're seeing it as he's narrating it to May. Who knows what angle they could go with it? And then
Yeah,
episode 7 will end with May knowing what happened. Then episode 8 will be maybe they do go to the island and find him, or who knows.
I just wonder how much it's going to change. Like, I feel like Osha's about to take that. Well, she put the helmet on, like she was almost taking that step willingly to, and the way Crimea was talking to her and teaching her and, ultimately corrupting her in this episode was kind of like he was almost doing it with kindness and truthfulness. Like, the Sith are very much, they have no reason to lie. That's pretty much what they can say. That they're not involved in trickery and lies, and they're straight to the point. And I wonder whether Soul can sort of flip it around and turn May back and realize that she's viewed it the wrong way the whole time.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned how Camille says the Sith aren't one to lie or be involved in trick or anything, because that's the exact view the Jedi had of them when Dooku says to Obi-Wan, there's a Sith Lord in the Senate, and that is their whole reasoning for like that. They're like, okay, we'll keep an eye on it, but we're not believing it. But it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah, because Obi-Wan, like, he was like, no way, can't be true, not a chance. No. That's where the Jedi are completely at, for so long. Like, it's very interesting. All right, so 2 episodes to go. Far out. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
just Skeleton Crew for the rest of the year in terms of shows. Also, we got
the Andor season 2.
Are we getting that end of this year or starting next year?
Not sure. I kind of want to. I think they should go for Andor before Skeleton Crew. I think after the Acolyte being so new, I think people would find it to be more grounding if they went back to see something familiar continue. And bring it up to Rogue One. Because going straight into another series with Skeleton Crew, we know stuff all about it. Like, there's so little,
absolutely nothing.
That people may find another new series jumping into a new sort of period to be a little bit jarring. It may
that's a good idea.
But we'll see. I don't think they've released any dates or anything, but I dare say something in December or November. I'm not sure.
The one thing that's got me keen for Skeleton, because obviously we know like next to nothing about it. The one thing that's got me keen for Skeleton Crew though is just the time period it's set, because it is in that Mando Ahsoka time, and with them being involved in another galaxy, I just feel like there might be a Peridia tie-in, because you wouldn't feel like, obviously they've introduced the concept, okay, there's more galaxies out there, but would they go to a third galaxy when they've only just introduced a second so quickly? So I do wonder if Peridia might get another little mention.
Possibly. Yeah.
That's because I'm fully invested in this Mando, Boba, Ahsoka verse. Like that whole time period's got me very excited for the next couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. I was sitting on the floor looking at the Black Series figures. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff here that's all sort of just tied in over the last few years, and it's like, we've kind of been spoiled a little bit. Like, I don't know. I'm still in my heart, I'm itching for a cinema release. Like, I just want that.
100%. Yeah.
Like, I just want to ride that hype. Again, for a movie, and do the midnight thing and just go ballistic again. Like, I love that.
Need that back.
Oh no, I was gonna ask you too. I'd love to get you on for an episode of the Star Wars fan chat series if you'd be keen.
Absolutely.
I haven't done one for a couple of months. I've just been a little bit slack.
No, absolutely.
But you will definitely organise that for some point soon.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be very keen to do that.
I need to get back on that for the rest of the year, because I sort of I smashed out so many early in the year. I was kind of like kind of just exhausted from it. Like, love talking to people, but it's the back and forth to try and organize time zones.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Did you talk to like dudes over in the States as well and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, States, UK, which it's awesome, but you know, it meant like a 5 a.m. Sunday.
Yeah,
it's just too hard.
Yeah, that's not what you want to be on Sunday.
Time zone's not something we have to worry about because we're both in Adelaide.
We're all good. We're perfect.
Yeah. Do you want to shout out your own channel where people can find you?
Yeah, sure. So you can find me on YouTube, Commander Jesse. Profile pictures, just the Commander Jesse helmet from the end of Clone Wars. He's just hanging there on the
greatest clone, named after the greatest clone trooper.
And then I'm also on Instagram. I'm very active on Twitter, TikTok as well. You can find me on all your main social medias.
Once I've finished here, I'll chuck some links in the description for people. But
appreciate it. Thank you.
I think we'll wrap up. So appreciate you coming on to chatting, man. It's good to have a chat. So
yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for having me. Always keen to talk Star Wars.
Awesome. Yeah, that's pretty much why I get up in the morning. So I'm like, I get to go to work and talk Star Wars.
Yeah, well, you just get to go to work and just talk Star Wars all day. That'd be awesome. Surrounded
pretty
by Star
much.
Wars.
It's like if someone sits down there like, don't really know much about Star Wars, and I'm like, yeah, all right, you're getting a really nice quick haircut today.
Whip through this one. Just buzz cut.
Well, I had one dude come in today. And he'd been in for the first time, and it was just chatted Star Wars for like 25 minutes. So I was like, I hope this guy comes back in and like chat with you. It was good.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Yeah, it's cool. It's like when I got, obviously you saw the tattoo when I met you the other week. When he did that, because he was doing it, and I was like, I'm gonna be here for like 8 hours, gonna find something to talk about. I looked at his arm, and he just had a whole Star Wars sleeve. I was like, I got you for the next 8 hours. So we're talking and that, and he just casually mentioned, he's like, oh yeah, dude, I did some work for he's a makeup artist, worked on a few movies and that. I was like, oh yeah, what movies? He's like, he's done like Lord of the Rings and all that sort of stuff. He's like, but his big masterpiece, the piece he like holds highest in his career, he did Anakin's Burns makeup on Revenge of the Sith. He lives like 10-15 minutes away from me, apparently. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I was like,
That's
you've
awesome.
got to be kidding me. I mean, it's you find Star Wars fans everywhere, dude. Once you find them, you talk for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, and you've really got to put it out there, because like, I don't know, we've had some people come in to get haircuts, and it's like, they're real quiet. You sort of just talk about the weather, and then at the end they're just like, oh, what do you think about this, and what do you think about Star Wars? And it's like, dude, why didn't you bring this up at the start?
Why didn't you say this at the start, dude?
I'm just like, next time you come in, start talking about Star Wars straight away. We'll be having
100%.
fun-filled conversation. It's awesome.
Like, I've been in your shop and that. If you sit down there, wouldn't you just like naturally assume like, okay, Star Wars is probably a good thing to talk about it?
Yeah. Well, we got Star Wars stuff all over the shop, and sometimes people so you're a Star Wars fan? Oh yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit,
yeah. I'm like, a little bit, man. It's all right. It's not bad.
On the TV you guys go on there, do you just have the movie shows play non-stop, or do you just like watch normal TV as well?
Oh, we usually just play music. Just
yeah.
A lot of the time it's Star Wars music. Like there's one playlist on Spotify that's got all the soundtracks.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I walked in there the day you weren't there, you had Love Across the Stars, Across the Stars playing there. I was like, this is perfect.
Nice.
This is perfect.
And then there's like Samuel Kim does like his own version.
Unreal. Yeah, have you got that playlist? Star Wars music, epic versions?
Yeah, sometimes that's playing as well.
Yeah. Unreal. Yeah, he kills it. Listen to that stuff at the gym or something. Yeah, unreal.
The Darth Revan one that he did is so good.
Ooh, yeah. The little twist, he put a bit of a twist in that epic version placed on the Book of Boba Fett theme. Unreal. Changes it completely. It was just a little twist he added to it, but unreal. Changed it completely.
Yeah. He's sort of westernized the Mandalorian one too. He's done like samurai inspired versions, and it's super cool. Super cool. yeah, it brings up a lot of conversation. But then other days we'll just be listening to like, the other lad that I work with, Matt, like he puts on like video game music. He's a big gamer,
Oh,
so
yeah,
like
yeah,
we
yeah,
the video game music, and
yep,
it's cool. That's cool. It's just adds a little bit of variety. And then
yeah,
Sunday,
yeah.
last Thursday, we were watching Star Wars behind the scenes documentaries. Like
Oh,
we watched
awesome.
the making of episode 1, and then we
Oh, perfect.
got through most of episode 2. Like the making of episode
Yeah,
2 was that Puppets to Pixels doco.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. They go for a while too. Those like behind the scenes ones that you'd have on the DVDs. Yeah, they go for a while, a
yeah,
couple of hours sometimes.
I've watched them almost as much as some of the movies sometimes. Like,
I find that stuff
there's-
so interesting, man. I find that
yeah.
stuff so interesting.
Like my boss, he's not into the behind the scenes stuff, and he's watching these docos like in the shop, and he's just like,
Yeah,
"Oh wow! Like I didn't no idea how they did that." And there's the whole scene
that's
where
how
like
they did that. Yeah,
Spielberg's playing with the battle droid, and he pulls the arm out of the socket.
yeah,
He's trying to
yeah,
put it back in. And it's cool because my boss he's built a battle droid. He's building another battle droid right now, another life-size battle
like
droid.
a life size, unreal 3D printing, it,
3D
obviously.
printed,
Yeah, unreal.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and he's just finished about a month ago. He finished an R2D2, which he commissioned for another client. So
Unreal.
yeah, they've got a life-size R2D2 in their house now, and they came in on the weekend. And he's just like, "Oh, how's R2 going?" They're just like, it still blows my mind when they were like, the dude was just like, "Yeah, we walk out in the hallway and like R2D2 standing at the end of the hallway. You just got to punch yourself." It's like, holy crap, that's actually there.
Unreal. It's like when I was getting my tattoo done, there was a lady opposite us getting something done and heard me and the artist talking about Star Wars. She's like, she got up from her tattoo. She's like, "Sorry, I just had to stop you. I heard you guys talking about Star Wars." She comes up to us, shows us, yeah, this R2D2 she made, but she could, she was inside it driving it too. Like it was just a normal 1-to-1
Oh,
scale
wow.
one, but she was that small she could fit in it. Because I think
Oh,
Supernova
wow.
or Snake had just been on in Adelaide. And yeah,
Yeah.
there's videos of her just driving it around the convention floor, like head on and everything, like it would have been done, 30, 40 years ago. Unreal.
He says, "I let my Star Wars shirts hoodie do the talking and hope someone makes a comment that gets the conversation going." Yeah, I just sort of say like, do you have 5 minutes to talk about a Lord and Savior Qui-Gon Jinn? And you just go from there. If they're like, "No, sorry,
Just stand in
I
the
don't know
middle.
who that is."
Stand in the middle of the mall, handing out.
Yeah,
That's what's
hand
good.
out,
Yeah,
like,
the
rope
tattoos
to
or
everyone.
something. That's what's good. Like the tattoos or something, people spot them and come up to you and start talking. So
Yeah, like
they're always good conversation starters.
we've got a few clients that do Star Wars tattoos, and it's like there was one day we had one person sitting in my chair and then another one at the other, and they both had similar tattoos. Like I can't remember what it was. Like, one had on his hands, I think, like an Imperial and a Rebel, and then another guy on his like knees or something had an Imperial and a Rebel, and it's just like just spot them from across the room. It's like you guys
Are you guys together? Or?
Yeah. It's like, and you're both in the shop at the same time. Like
That's nuts.
But yeah, it's good fun. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming and tuning in. Yeah, it's been a good chat. But we'll see you next week for maybe episode 7. Interesting to see what's going to happen. Very excited.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, tune in. Hope you can join us. May the force be with you, everyone.
May the force be with you guys. Always.